The Passion of our Lord Jesus Christ, as drawn from all four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Part 4. As soon as it was morning, all the ruling priests and the elders of the people and the scribes, that is, the whole Jewish council, had a meeting. They brought Jesus before their council and asked, "Are you the Christ? Tell us." He said to them, "If I tell you, you will not believe me. And if I ask you a question, you will not answer. But from now on, the Son of Man will be sitting at the right hand of the power of God." "Are you then the Son of God?" all of them asked. He answered them, "As you say, I am." "Why do we need any more testimony?" they asked. "We ourselves have heard him say it." Then the entire assembly decided to put Jesus to death. They stood up, bound Jesus, took him from Caiaphas to the palace, and handed him over to Pilate the governor. It was early in the morning. When Judas, who betrayed him, saw that Jesus was condemned, he felt sorry and brought the 30 pieces of silver back to the ruling priests and elders. He said, "I have sinned by betraying innocent blood." They said, "What do we care? That's your problem." Then Judas threw the money into the temple and went away and hanged himself. Falling head first, he burst in the middle, and all his intestines poured out. When the ruling priests took the money, they said, "It's not right to put it in the temple treasury, since it's blood money." So they decided to use it to buy the potter's field for the burial of strangers. That is why that field has ever since been called Field of Blood. Then what the prophet Jeremiah said was fulfilled. They took the 30 shekels of silver, the price of him on whom the children of Israel had set a value, and they gave them for the potter's field, as the Lord directed me. To keep from becoming unclean, they wanted to celebrate the Passover. The Jews themselves did not go into the palace. So Pilate came out to them and asked, "What accusation are you bringing against this man?" They answered him, "If he were not a criminal, we would not have handed him over to you." Pilate therefore told them, "Take him yourselves and judge him according to your law." The Jews answered him, "We are not permitted to execute anyone." In this way, the statement that Jesus had made when he had predicted how he would die was fulfilled. Then they began to accuse him. "We found that he makes our people disloyal, keeps them from paying taxes to the emperor, and says he is Christ, a king." Pilate went back into the palace and called for Jesus. Jesus stood before the governor. Pilate then asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "Did you think of that yourself?" Jesus asked, "or did others tell you about me?" "Am I a Jew?" Pilate asked. "Your own people and the ruling priests handed you over to me. What did you do?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom does not belong to this world. If my kingdom belonged to this world, my helpers would fight to keep me from being handed over to the Jews. But now my kingdom is not of this world." "Then you are a king?" Pilate asked him. Jesus answered, "You are correct in saying that I am a king. I was born and came into the world for this very reason, that I might testify to the truth. Everyone who lives in the truth listens to me." Pilate said to him, "What is truth?" After saying this, he went out to the Jews again and told the ruling priests and the crowd, "I do not find this man guilty of anything." While the ruling priests and elders were accusing him, he said nothing. "Don't you have anything to say to this?" Pilate asked him again. Don't you hear how many charges they are bringing against you?" But Jesus did not answer him any more in regard to a single thing that was said, so that Pilate was very much surprised. The priests and the crowd kept urging the governor, "He stirs up the people by teaching all over Judea, beginning in Galilee and coming here." When Pilate heard that, he asked, "Is the man from Galilee?" And when he found out that Jesus came from the country ruled by Herod, he sent him to Herod, who was also in Jerusalem at that time. Herod was very glad to see Jesus. For a long time he wanted to see him because he was hearing about him, and he was hoping to see Jesus work some miraculous sign. He asked him many questions, but Jesus did not answer him. The ruling priests and the scribes were standing there and accusing him vehemently. Herod and his soldiers treated Jesus with contempt and made fun of him. They put a splendid garment on him and then sent him back to Pilate. On that day, Herod and Pilate became friends. Before this, they had been enemies. Then Pilate called the ruling priests, the other leaders, and the people together. He told them, "You brought me this man as one who turns the people against the government. And now look, I have examined this man before you and found him innocent of the things of which you accuse him. And Herod did too, because he sent him back to us. You see, he has not done anything to deserve death. So I am going to have him whipped and let him go." Now, at every festival, the governor used to free one prisoner whom the crowd wanted and requested. At that time, there was a well-known prisoner by the name of Barabbas. Barabbas had been thrown into prison with the rebels who in their revolt had committed a murder that had taken place in the city. And the crowd came up and asked Pilate to do for them as he had done before. "You have a custom that I set free one person for you at the Passover," Pilate answered them. "Whom do you want me to set free for you? Barabbas or Jesus, the King of the Jews, who is called Christ?" For he knew the ruling priests had handed Jesus over to him because they were jealous. While he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent someone to tell him, "Let that righteous man alone, because I suffered much in a dream last night on account of him." But the ruling priests and elders stirred up the people so that Pilate would release Barabbas to them and have Jesus killed. The governor asked them, "Which of the two do you want me to set free for you?" The whole crowd then shouted, "Not this one! Away with him! Free Barabbas for us!" But because Pilate wanted to let Jesus go, he called out to the people again, "Then what should I do with Jesus, who is called Christ, whom you call the King of the Jews?" Then they kept yelling, "Crucify! Crucify him!" So Pilate asked them a third time, "Why? What wrong has he done? I have found nothing in him that deserves death, so I am going to have him whipped and let him go." But they began to shout even louder, "Crucify him!" Their shouts were overpowering Pilate. Here ends part 4 of the Passion reading.